Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we discuss every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Jeff.
I'm Aurora.
And I'm Lyrsa.
And this week we are discussing Series 9, Episodes 1 and 2, The Magician's Apprentice and the Witch's Familiar by Stephen Moffat. This is the start of a season of mostly two-parters, and also features the return of Davros and really the Daleks in the first real major way it's felt like they've been back in a while. Also Missy's back. I commented, this episode feels like it's almost like Moffat trying to be RTD core, which makes sense because I believe Moffat had actually asked RTD to write this and he turned it down.
I'm curious where you're seeing the RTD in this episode.
I think it's, for one thing, Davros being back, and the last time that he was around was Journey's End. The return of the what's the red Dalek? Like that prop was also
right,
from
the Dalek
Journey's
Commander.
End.
Yeah.
And also just like the Shadow Proclamation lady showing up again, and
the Ood.
Yeah, the Ood, some of the just little ways that things are written, the way that Murray Gold scores like the reveal of Skaro is very much more in the style of like how it was RTD era.
Yeah, I can see it. Also,
That makes sense.
The Snake Man just gives me just gives me those vibes too.
Yeah.
The snake guy is interesting. It's a very silly concept, and I don't understand why he's there, but like, okay, he's cool, so it's okay.
The snake guy made me think about that one meme where it's a picture of Venom and the caption is I use they them pronouns not because I'm non-binary but because I'm literally two people.
So true.
And we also are given the ability to explore through Doctor Who, the Doctor Who equivalent of the baby Hitler question.
Yeah, the whole like setup in the first episode is so solid because like it literally has like 3 different parts of lead-in before you get anywhere, but each is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I we've sort of talked before, like how two-parters in general, they tend to have this problem where the second episode like kind of falls off, and I don't think that happens here. And I think part of it is because it has that like it keeps returning to that moment with child Davros in the war, and that sort of like grounds the progression of like the ideas at play over the course of both episodes. I think it's a good sort of like pacing tool, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hand mines are fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that is much more Moffat than RTD.
Yeah.
I think they're ridiculous but cool.
Yeah, I can see.
I was just
how
like,
you think
this is Moffat core Who. I don't know if Skaro would be using these, but sure.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing that made me think very RTD is the way that Clara like is like, oh, okay, gotta go to unit now, and like the showing all the newscasts and shit.
I think that the whole sequence is really good. Just the plane stopping, that was very RTD because that reminded me of the really bad Christmas special. God, what was it? The one with the blood mages or whatever.
What?
The people
Plasmavore.
who control. Yeah, no, the people who control them by blood and make people like
Oh, the
stand on the ledge.
Sycorax. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That reminded me of that kind of, except
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Especially because
um,
it's totally revealed to be such a gambit.
yeah, it's so funny because Clara is just, I just love how she like leaps into action. Like she sees a plane in the sky and she's immediately like, all right, class canceled. And just imagine being the principal and you just get a call from like the government and it's like, we
Yeah.
need your random teacher, and she just like takes it in stride.
Yeah.
hmm
um. So yeah, we are introduced to uh Missy back again. And really it starts like this episode pretty like most of this story Clara spends with Missy more than 12, which leads to some real interesting energy.
I totally haven't
God,
read
there
this
is
fic on
so
AO3 10,000 times.
Yeah, yep. I'm like, when are they just going to start fucking? Like, it feels like they're building up to this.
I mean, it really is like Clarissa, like Missy said. You've got the couple, which is the Doctor and Missy, except they're a blackrom T for T couple, and then you
Yeah,
have Clara, who's both of their pet,
yeah.
the pet that they fuck.
I don't wait. No, wait.
With enthusiastic consent.
Backspace. um,
I'm just saying they totally keep her on a leash at home.
sure. They transport back to the medieval times, and I think it's I love how it like the guitar is introduced of like, okay, well the doctor's here, so we should start looking for anachronisms, and you just hear like guitar feedback squeals, and she just looks like, Jesus Christ, are you gonna be that obvious?
It's such a
He's
good
putting off
scene.
really big midlife crisis vibes.
He
Absolutely.
is.
I think this was
Like
the first.
this
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. I think this scene, when we were watching it, like as a little dumb, I don't know, like barely getting into high school person when this thing came out, probably. I think this was the first moment, this scene, where it's just like, oh, like 12's whole thing is like his gruff thing is like sort of a facade. Like there's like more depth to him than just like grumpy guy, which is why I know like a lot of people who basically stopped watching Doctor Who after series 8. It's like they never like really got that. And
Uh-huh.
I'm excited to be here. I have some complaints about this story, but like 12 Clara and Missy really aren't in them. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just really important, like moment for the Doctor, because I mean, yeah, I didn't think about that when I was watching it, because that's just sort of how we think about 12 in general. But I forgot that like all of season 8 we've been talking about how just like weirdly mean he is for that whole season, and this is
Yeah.
more sort of like in our minds proper 12.
Yeah, there is kind of an yeah, it does very much feel like an uh adjustment period, like the first season is kind of figuring out who he is, and then after that he kind of goes and has his midlife crisis moment, and it kind of finds himself a little bit more, I guess. And we get to where we are now. And even then, it feels like, it does kind of feel like that they kind of cut back on the abrasiveness due to complaints. I wonder if that's the case. But it's done in a way that makes it feel kind of natural. It's like George Lucas. He was totally making that shit up as he went along, but he managed to make it all work and feel natural.
We totally weren't having this conversation earlier. Yeah, a lot of things pick up very naturally, despite the complaints about how great of an exit Clara could have had several times over by now. Everything feels really like we're getting back into the groove. It's not like at the beginning of series 7 where it's just like, I guess we're doing this again now. We're not moving anywhere. This feels like a progression of the characters, of Missy, Clara, and 12, and I'm here for it. Not gonna lie, I think this is the story arc where I've officially gotten. Let's just put it this way: Kate Lethbridge Stewart has worn out her welcome for me at this point.
Yep. She's like barely even there too. It's weird.
Also, like the fact that she's in a secret like government organization that's fought aliens and like knows how terrible like things can be. She's just shocked at the prospect that maybe these planes are going to be used as weapons. And I'm like, in a post 9/11 world, really?
I can't. Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah. The writing.
Russell,
for her
can we get Russell? Russell, can we get Harriet Jones back? But like I know you said that she canonically survived. Can we get her back and then also undo the bit where you made her into fucking Thatcher randomly out of nowhere? Please.
I do think that whole sequence was good though, and then just like straight into Missy. I forgot. I'm gonna be straight up. Not me, but whoever was watching it forgot that Missy was in this, and so they were like genuinely shocked when Missy showed up, and then remembered, oh right, Missy is in this, and then got really excited.
Yeah, she's not in the rest of the season. Pretty much, it's just this.
Yeah,
this is your moment for now until we get to series 10.
And I think it's such an interesting choice because usually it's like they save the master until like a season after the last time we see them. But this time it's like, all right, we just said she was dead, but nope, bitch, she's back already.
It really sets up that Missy is different and a more interesting exploration of the character, and in fact, the best incarnation of the character.
I think it does a good job of establishing, like, yeah, she's here to stay. Like, you're gonna be seeing more of this bitch.
Yeah. It's great.
And just she's so crazy good. I'm literally like, I think if you were to go to any Missy moment in any of these 2 episodes, she would be doing something like fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not even worth talking about all of them because literally every moment in these 2 episodes is just her being the absolute fucking best.
Yeah. And it's like, even though it's like, it's clear that the version that Missy is clearly like a different version of that character that is actually willing to go through the redemption arc. Cause remember, like if we pop back to Sim Master, he literally like 10 like literally is like, nope, like he tries it and Sim's like, no, fuck you. But it's very clear that she's willing to try, but she's also not defanged. Like, they set this up immediately, like, no, I have not turned good.
God, I just love what she does with her accent too, because she's always like meandering between like more sort of like Middle English and then just like full Scottish and then just randomly like mockingly American.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyways, and then they get to the planet.
Yeah. Then they get to the planet. As I said, great Missy moment where she's like, "Yeah, you know what? Might be sucked out into space, might not. Guess we're just going to find out. Wahoo."
Wahoo! Mario Missy.
Yeah. I cook it a meatball. I kill it a civilian.
God, I love the moment with the confession dial where she pulls it out and she's like, "It's to be delivered to a Time Lord's closest friend," and then Clara tries to touch it and it zaps him and she's like, "What are you doing?" I said his closest friend.
Yeah, it's like me, you dumbass.
And then Clara's like, "But you're always trying to kill him," and then she's just like, "He's always trying to kill me too."
It's like this is one of the places where Moffat's general Moffatness really fucking works.
See, the trick was to just make the mommy lady dangerous all along, dangerous and murderous.
Well, no, because he tried that with River and it was cringe and fail.
Yeah.
But she was so defanged. That was the problem.
But like even when they tried to play it more dangerous than Let's Kill Hitler, it was awful.
That's true.
I also think part of that was just like that pairing with Smith just has a very different
that's
vibe.
true. Is it doesn't have there isn't the same bite back.
Also,
it's the same reason why 12 with River in that one episode is better than pretty much every single 11 River episode ever.
so true. I feel like with the dynamic that's set up between 12 and Missy here, because we get a hint of it in series 8, but honestly, I think that episode is kind of just like jacking itself off with the reveal. But like now that we get to sit with the character and knowing what comes in series 10, I can't help but think of the like ironic meme shitpost about Jared Leto Joker and Harley Quinn of just like she was his queen. But like for 12 and Missy, like the batshit dynamic of that like actually kind of makes it ironically true.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Also, I know we shit post about the timeless child thing fucking up previous things, but for once we actually have the opposite where she says I knew the doctor when he was a little girl.
And that makes more sense with the timeless child.
It's the only time we will ever say this on the podcast. A completely like all of that just for one completely unnecessary change.
But it does complete the T for T headcanon here.
Yeah.
So, who's to say if the timeless child was really all that bad?
I don't even see.
Weird to say.
I think if the timeless child wasn't done by fucking Chris Chibnall, it'd have potential. It's just the fact that like it doesn't actually really change anything and its ramifications are not explored in any meaningful way.
Yeah. There's a whole like colonialist.
What are you talking about? They did
do, but they don't.
What are you talking about? They did Flux and revealed that she was part of the space CIA or whatever. I don't know. I didn't watch the
They
last
revealed that in
episode.
Timeless Children too. They
Oh,
didn't tell
okay.
us. They didn't really tell us anything that we didn't already know.
I didn't watch that episode either, as you know, so.
It's fine. Flux is like literally nothing. It's just nothing. It is an endless expanse, an endless waste from which no good storytelling escapes.
Hey, the Sontaran episode was good.
I think we got Stockholm syndromed into it.
I don't know.
Like, I legitimately think that every single fucking Chibnall episode that we are like, every single Chibnall episode that was like, oh, hey, this was actually pretty good, without fail, every single one, I think, were it in a different era, would be considered mid to kind of bad. It is purely just because they are in such a fucking empty, like, the Chibnall era is functionally the back rooms. Just endless halls of nothing.
Thankfully,
Anyways,
this
this
episode has
episode.
stuff we can talk about.
Anyways, after my Chibnall rant is done,
Take a drink.
um, uh, so yeah, and this is the bit here that I was talking about of the Scar reveal when like the choir and the everything kicks in. That's so RTD. Like, admittedly, we haven't had a Dalek story in the same way, but it's felt like all the Dalek stories that we've had have not had the same, like, almost John Williams Duel of the Fatesian, like, choir pulled in. And like super heightened, like it's almost like, bro, it's the series opener, not a finale. What the fuck? Chill the hell out. Oh my god.
And I know, I mean, this really goes back to, I think part of the reason we're so like struck with the RTD comparisons, aside from RT Davros, is that the last time we saw Davros was obviously in Journey's End, but like we haven't really had a great Dalek storyline. Like we've had Into the Dalek, but we haven't had one that's
to be fair, we didn't really have a great Dalek storyline for the latter half of RTD too. Actually,
Yeah.
no, you know what? Okay, Daleks in Manhattan was good. I take that back. Daleks in Manhattan was good.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we didn't kick it off great with like the British. I fucking forget that episode where they're like Power Ranger Dalek colors.
Oh yeah, that one's trash. That's terrible.
So it's just like we've had a lot of ones where it's just like they haven't really done anything interesting, or they've tried to reinvent the formula but just kind of gone backwards. And then Dalek sleeper agents, where the stupid eye socket goes out of the skull, is just like,
yeah.
It's nice to return to something that feels like a proper Dalek storyline, and it's a shame that it sort of repeats beats from some of the best Dalek storylines of the past.
Yeah.
But
reject Moffernity, return to RTD.
so true, King.
Moffernity.
That's the episode title. Reject Moffernity.
Hey, you know we're Moffat fans. I think this episode is proof that Moffat is kind of good sometimes.
I think Moffat is kind of good sometimes. I just think many of the things that make this good... Well, okay. Actually, no, because I think that the best thing that makes this good is like the in-depth kind of back and forth and talking, which Moffat can do very well. It's just some of the ancillary flavor text that I think really elevates this episode is very RTD core.
For sure.
So, yeah. They do the fucking cliffhanger fake out where it's like, oh, he's going to fucking shoot Davros.
That is so stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just like, even back then, I was just
I'm like,
he's
do
not...
it, coward. You won't. Fucking ice that, dude. We open episode 2 immediately on homoeroticism. She's literally tied up.
Yeah, I didn't know Missy knew Shibari, but that doesn't surprise me.
How would that not be a thing that would absolutely, like, no shit. Duh.
Yes. I've been on AO3. We've been over this.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole exchange is just so charged.
Yeah, it really is. I was just like, Jesus Christ, watching it.
I mean, again, it really expands the idea that Clara is their pet, because the whole like sequence of them breaking back into the thing is just Missy fucking with her over and over again.
Like, I know we got like a good chunk of it, a decent chunk of it in series 10, but I still don't think it was far enough. RTD, I know you're listening to this podcast, given that we jack you off constantly verbally on it. Please, for some part of your new era of Doctor Who, just make one of the companions the master. Just full time. Just do it. They've toyed with the idea multiple times before already. I think they should just commit and do it. I think it's a really interesting perspective that you don't see on the show that often. Like, I don't necessarily think the master should be the only companion. I think they should, but have it be like Doctor, standard companion fare, and the fucking master. Just do it.
I think having like a sort of more out there companion as a third in general helps just as a whole, because you get that again next season with Nardole, and it's a good dynamic, and they should really do it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that
have the pet, but also have someone who knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
The fact that half of this episode is basically showing that you too, as a brat, can eventually aspire to become a top is honestly inspiring. That was it. That was my joke. But no, the Missy Clara stuff is really cool. Really well done. Adds some like background lore to Skaro, which is nice, even though there is no such thing as like new codified lore in Doctor Who. But yeah, and I'll save my complaints for the end, because my complaints have to do with like the last 15 minutes of the show. But yeah, I think this is an example of how you can keep momentum across a two-parter.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we are able to really move on to the real. Well, oh no, wait, sorry, that's right. We have the bit with the Doctor in Davros's chair, where he just rolls in and is like, "Admit it, you've all had this exact nightmare."
When you think about it, it's very Freudian.
Yeah.
What if your dad was someone else and he dominated you? Question. I don't know where I was going with this, but
where were you going with this? Really, I wanna hear your explanation.
Look, it's Freudian. I don't need to elaborate on that.
No.
Well, yeah, because Freud was a hack. Fucking. Also, like the way that, I don't know, just the flippance. I mean, it might just be because of everything else, but I think something about the flippant nature of how he just rolls around and is just constantly like talking shit really makes me feel it really feels like RTD. Like I admit it, I know it's a Moffat trait too. It's just something about the way it's done here just
Well,
feels super RTD.
I think again we're seeing the contrast between like where sort of 12 as a character restricts some of Moffat's like tendencies, because I can just imagine how cringe 11 going around in Davros's chair would be.
Yeah, exactly.
And
You
just
have
like,
to have the actor that can really pull it off.
yeah, or and not that Matt Smith couldn't pull off like understated comedy, but it's just like he's so great at the physical aspect that
Yeah.
like you can get
He
lost in that.
Yeah, and he's literally just like that. Like I think they literally said he's just like that.
Yeah.
He
In House of Dragons, that's going to be his character too. But no, yeah,
haven't you seen that dance scene in Morbius?
No, I have not. Why did you watch Morbius?
I didn't watch Morbius. I've just seen that dance scene because it's hilarious.
It makes the dancing in Mass Effect that the main character can do seem
he's just
well
freaking
adjusted
the
by
fuck out
comparison.
over this weird ass song that sounds like the person in it is just repeatedly saying have sex over and over again, and he's dancing shirtless. Are you looking this up?
No.
You should.
I will not look up Morbius.
They're not getting morbed. You can't make them.
Yeah, I can't believe this. You're not based in Morbpilled. Editor's note here from shitty laptop Mike Geoff. At this moment in the podcast, Liersa then proceeded to send me the entire film Morbius 2022 on Discord. But because I had notifications off, I didn't see it until after we stopped recording, so I completely sandbagged a bit here. Sorry.
We've been doing this for too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's great physical comedy on 12's end. Clara and Missy doing based blackrom pet shenanigans. I don't know, whatever the fuck someone else said.
Homestuck question mark?
Sure.
It's always Homestuck.
You can plug that in somewhere, I'm sure. I think my biggest complaint about this story overall is that the idea of Davros regretting, maybe not regretting at the end of his life, but like just kind of seeing the destruction, like just even having that question, like the idea of that story is so cool to me that the fact that they pull that twist when that could be such a neat exploration of like how fascists even hurt themselves in the end, like I don't know, that was just such a missed opportunity, that the fact that it's just like, oh, just kidding, I'm gonna use your regeneration energy to like live more, psych, let's keep the status quo going, baby. It was like,
I don't know, I kind of dig it actually, especially because I think it's more in character for Davros, because the thing with Davros is that he's really fucking smart. So he's not above like totally like playing, like, remember that bit in Genesis where they try to get the Dalek shut down and he's like, yeah, sure, no, you're right, I'll do what you say, and then he just doesn't do it.
No, yeah, I'm not saying it's like out of character, it's just like considering like an interesting story, I didn't like that they cheapened out on the more interesting version of it, but also like, also you could do that with like another race. You could just substitute like, here's fascist species 7B, and this is the storyline we're gonna do with them. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It's just the more I look at fiction, the more I'm just like, why do we have to fake out on everything interesting? You know?
I don't know. I like the fake out here personally, especially because I think I think it really continues to really well illustrate the rivalry and the antagonism between the two that's always been there, where it's like, oh yeah, like he knew that the doctor was going to do this, but the doctor was like, yeah, I knew you were gonna fucking try and stab me in the back, you piece of shit, so it didn't work, fuck you.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, I'm also like my nitpicking brain was really on today. I don't know why that is. It's because I'm a cunt, I guess. I don't know, but the I was just thinking like his whole thing was like wanting to make a reality bomb and like purify the universe. Why isn't he trying to do that again? I guess he burned out all
Probably.
his resources and he can't
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
anymore. It's just like that seems like a dangerous situation to have potentially lying around, but you know, it whatever. It's Doctor Who. Um
Yeah, and I really do think it's like, it really feels like it. I think when I was younger, I might have agreed with you on the sense of like, oh, this is a little disappointing. But now I'm like, nah, this bitch doesn't deserve any sympathy.
well no, I know I don't think he deserves sympathy. I'm just saying like that regardless of like how you feel about I'm just saying like on a I don't know if it's the correct term for like metatextual, but like I don't necessarily want to feel bad for him. I just think like the story idea would be like kind of neat if executed well. You know what I mean? Like sort of how in Jubilee how we got to see how like fascists even like fuck up their own lives, but it was still clear that they were
Yeah,
terrible people. Like you could still do that if you wanted to. Um Clearly they didn't, and I'm not saying this episode is like bad for not doing the thing I wanted. It's just again, it's a personal frustration of mine when an interesting idea could be teased and then it doesn't happen. That's all I'm saying. But it doesn't
yeah,
like actively detract from like the quality of what is happening, if that makes sense.
yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Um, yeah. I also do like. I think it's a really neat, the idea that he has with the Dalek sewer. I think that's a really neat idea, and how it's like it really fits the idea of the Daleks, of like these things are so designed to be just these evil creatures that will go on forever, that if they are not directly killed, they will just decompose into this still alive, like writhing goop of hatred. And of course the Daleks, I mean, you can talk about Dalek hypocrites and the fact that they wouldn't just exterminate, but you know, whatever, sure. Different. I can see how your interpretation of the Daleks could lead you to come up with this idea, and I think it's a pretty good idea. So
Well,
Yeah,
just
and I
turn
think
into
it's
East
it's a
LA.
it's a good like device just for getting out of jams too, because it's also how they get out. Um,
yeah, it sets up a
it's
very nice Chekhov's gun.
Hmm.
yeah, and I think it's just really creepy in a way that adds some good tension when it's first introduced. So I guess yeah, you could like quibble about the ideological aspects of it, but I guess I, actually in a meta way, it kind of fits the idea, like the ultimate resolution of it, because they're showing mercy to the other Daleks by not killing them.
Yeah,
So it's like it's actually foreshadowing for the resolution.
yeah, it's very well plotted out and thought out. It feels like a level of thought put into things that I don't think we've gotten from Moffat in a long while.
Hmm.
Like I really dig it. um this is the weird thing that they do this. They've done this before, and every time they do this, I kind of like raise my eyebrow at it of like the fact that you can just fucking climb in there. I don't think that's how, like, they're custom made for Khaleds. I'm not sure, like, what? This isn't the fucking Cybermen we're talking about here. This is, like, specifically built for a Khaled mutant. It's very odd.
This is where I think the episode kind of throws the kitchen sink at things. To have, like, oh my god, is he going to kill this Dalek? Like...
And to hammer home the mercy point. Yes. No, I get why it is there and what purpose it functionally serves in the story. It's just like, huh.
It's also just like a weird, and again, like, canon doesn't exist, but like, if you think about this in that, like, when the Doctor says, like, Daleks never surrender, they don't ask for mercy, they are all hateful, none of them deserves any, like, moral consideration. Like, he never says that explicitly, but that's, like, the vibe you get from him. And it's like, well, wait, now we don't really know that. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
It works within the confines of this episode and, like, what the theme is supposed to be, I guess. But... And, I guess, to explain how River Song would get a Dalek to say mercy, which, whatever, fuck you. Yeah. It's just a weird, I think, oddly self-indulgent, like, this is to the extent of, like, where Moffat will, like, pat himself on the back for being clever, but just like, oh, remember how we met Clara in a Dalek? Well, here she's in one again.
Yeah, no, I caught that and was like, boy, you think you're so fucking smart.
It's just like, sure, buddy.
Yeah. I was like, huh, yeah, sure. But I also think, it's really funny how, Missy kind of ends up doing that thing. It's essentially a verbal equivalent of, like, looking away and, like, whistling to try and be like, no, I didn't do anything. Don't look at me. Well, he's, like, obviously super pissed and is like, get the fuck out of my sight. Fuck you. I can't believe you did this.
Can't believe she's done this.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this. Yeah.
That's also, I'm wondering if the only reason he, like, eventually went to save Missy, like, in series, like, we find out about in series 10, is that he forgot Clara, so he forgot that she did this. Like, they definitely didn't think about that at all, but that's, like, an interesting thing to think about.
I really like I want to backtrack slightly because I just remember the line that he says where Davros is like, I'm dying, Doctor. And he's like, you keep saying that, but you keep not dying. It's a line that's applicable to many things even outside this universe.
It's good.
So yeah, and then they escape, and the Doctor goes and saves Davros to essentially teach him mercy. Yeah.
Couldn't have given him any Marxian material analysis while he was there. Just mercy.
I mean, I think the Big Finish Davros series, I think pretty much kind of points out, or maybe it's some Big Finish story that's basically, it asks the question of, hey, what if we just did that thing and took Davros out instead of taking the Daleks out. Like, because if you remember correctly, Genesis of the Daleks is literally the Time Lord sending For and Sarah Jane and Harry to Skaro at the birth of the Daleks to try and deal with them before they become a problem.
And they fail.
Yeah, well, and they fail, but I believe it answers the question of, like, can't you just alter Davros's life or Skaro's history or whatever? And it's basically pretty much stated that Davros will always create the Daleks. Like, I think this existed before the term fixed point was in parlance, but it's basically treated as a fixed point, a constant that will happen no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to exploring that. I don't know how long that audio series is, but
I think Davros is like 4 parts or something.
it also reminds me of it's not the exact same idea, but how in series 1 Boomtown, how there's this whole idea of like, oh, I'm turning good. It's just like I saved this one person, and it's just like, well, that's not turning good. That's like you felt bad, or they looked at you a certain way, or they reminded you of someone and you decided not to be evil. And it's just like that kind of thing where, like, even if you teach someone to like save someone if they're looking particularly vulnerable, or if they're like somewhat like kind looking or whatever, like that doesn't necessarily change the course of someone's entire life.
Yeah. I mean, I think Boomtown does make this. I think it does this idea better, but it also does that. I will also point out that it does do it with someone who is infinitely more redeemable than Davros was. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. That's really about all I have to say on this one.
Yeah. I would add, I like the sort of reversal with Davros a lot. I think you don't get many moments where like the Doctor is outsmarted and then he outsmarts someone again. Usually it's just like the Doctor outsmarts someone. There's usually just one layer to it, and I appreciate that they went for like another layer of it here because he's up against a smart guy. Yeah, I don't know. It still doesn't. I still question the Doctor a little bit here though, because he does like still give Davros the regenerations, knowing that Davros is going to steal them, which questionable.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing of why does Batman not kill the Joker knowing full well that the Joker will break out of Arkham and continue to cause problems?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You just kind of have to accept that it is an unavoidable part of the nature of the series.
Yep. What was I gonna say? Yeah, and I like the bit at the end where they meet up with the Clara Dalek and
Yeah.
Missy is trying to trick the Doctor into killing her. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I guess moving on to ratings. Yeah, it's a good fucking episode, and I think it's a really strong start for the next season that I think is really solid season and one of the show's best. Yeah, really good start. Great performances all around. Very very RTD-esque in places, and I like that obviously because I'm an RTD stan. Missy's great. It really once again makes me really sad that, like, even though even though Missy is in a lot more of the next season, it still makes me sad that we didn't get more. Like, as I said, I just want a full season at least where Missy is just the companion. I'd love that. So yeah. I'd give this letter grade. I'd give this a solid A. It's really good.
Yeah. I think first of all, yes to more of this master. Obviously, we know where that goes, but it's such a shame that we didn't get more of her. And honestly, I think the correct way to do that would have had, like, if you wanted to keep the Dewan Master antagonistic to the Doctor, just make him like an anti-hero where he's like doing good things that the Doctor would agree with, but through like bad methods. Anyway, different subject. We don't have time for 2 Chibnall rants today. This is a pretty damn good series opener. Usually Doctor Who kind of saves like sort of event-like storylines for the end, but this series is obviously doing something different. So I'm glad we're already seeing the results of that. Missy comes back and just reinforces once again why she's my favorite master. We get to see more layers of 12. That's awesome. Clara, she should have left, but she's here and she's still doing great work. Just some detours in the story made me slightly frustrated, but overall a well-paced series intro that kind of plants some seeds for what's going to happen later on, some of which I like and some of which I really don't. This is a solid B. Solid 8. I forget what I'm doing anymore. Is it 8 out of 10?
It's been a long week.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is just really a classic. It's such a great Missy episode, and just everything with the Doctor in this is great. And yeah, it's good. Fucking 9.5 out of 10.
God, it's so depressing. We needed more Missy. Bring Missy back, RTD. I don't care anymore. People will say like, it doesn't need to be a big nostalgia wank fest. We need to move forward, but just fucking give me more Missy content, man. God damn it. Anyways, next week we will be discussing the 2-part story Under the Lake and Before the Flood. Until then, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. You can support us on Patreon for a number of benefits, such as early access to episodes, the ability to listen in live to episodes being recorded, and potentially even the ability to guest star upon an episode of your choosing. I'm Jeff. You can follow me on Twitter at WheatleyDL.
I like snakes. You can follow me on... It's true. Fuck you. You can follow me on Twitter at Of Mice and Femmes for all your mediocre Morb posting memes.
Morb. Understandable. And we will see you all next week.